Everyone has a story to tell, but how do you actually get paid to tell yours, especially in midlife? If you've ever thought about writing personal essays, mini anecdotes, memoirs, those deeply honest slice of life stories that make people nod along, laugh, or even stop crying, then this is for you. Today, you're gonna meet Jessica, Smock and Steph Sprenger, the creators of Midstory, a best-selling Substack publication dedicated to sharing and elevating midlife stories. They've been through it all, and they know exactly what it takes to turn personal essays into published and paid work, because the messy middle of life should never feel lonely. Welcome to our interview today, Jessica and Steph. I know from your Substack bios that, for instance, Jessica, she says in her Substack bio that she's a writer. She's the co-editor of Midstory magazine, the co-founder of the Her Stories project, and a former teacher and researcher, a mom of two, a doctorate in ad policy, lover of books and dogs. Jessica, is there anything else you'd like to add here?
Only that we did launch a new Substack called Midstack, which is kind of a directory and a community for midlife women on Substack. So we kind of are co-founders and co-editors of the Her Stories project, Midstack, and Midstory.
Yeah, that's cool. I saw this. So now you have like two publications then on Substack.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think for the directory, we're going to cover this in a sec. It's also, pretty smart to have like two publications then. And Steph, I know that you are a Gen X writer, a producer, a podcaster, a stand-up comic, a single ADHD mom. The intersection of single parenting, midlife, and neurodivergence is what interests you. Is there anything else you'd like to add here, Steph?
No, that is a lot of things in one sentence.
She has such a great bio.
Yeah, I've got a lot going on at the moment. And along with Jessica and I are so lucky to have each other as co-editors of Her Stories and Midstory and Midstack. You can't do all this much on your own, for sure.
I think part of our story, a part of Her Story, and now Midstory, is also about creative partnerships and community and finding other people to work with during this stage of life.
Before we gonna talk a bit more about your Substack publication, Steph and Jessica, how did you two meet?
Oh boy.
We love this story. So we are both obsessed with Substack, but way back in the day, prior to Substack, we were both just traditional bloggers back kind of in the heyday of
mommy
blogging.
bloggers.
Don't say it. It makes me want to gag.
Why?
I know.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, we were mommy bloggers. We blogged about parenting, but we met in a group for bloggers, and we clicked because we were reading a lot of the same books. And we were both reading the book called She Matters, which A Life in Friendship. So it was a memoir about friendship, and we both loved writing and reading about women's friendship. And so we teamed together to create a series about women's friendship. And that was the very beginning of our story, like in 2013, I think. And we've been working together.
That, like
Do you
2012.
Think it was?
Yeah.
It might have been 2012. Our kids were babies when we started blogging, weren't they?
Yeah, and now they're teenagers. Yeah, and then we formed kind of a website from there that was still publishing, again, stories of women's friendship. And then we started publishing more broad range of topics mostly about motherhood. And then we started publishing anthologies. So we published 5 different anthologies over the course of more than a decade, I guess. And then we started teaching online writing classes over a decade ago still, using platforms like Teachable. We started using those. And then during the pandemic, we sort of moved more toward leading writing groups. So we started doing that a lot more rather than just kind of classes. Yeah. And then we moved to Substack last year.
Yeah, so we started with that women's friendship series, and we've gone through all kinds of iterations with the publishing anthologies and the writing courses. But I think the common thread through the last decade is women connecting. And so women as readers and as writers, and especially now at Midlife, we've really focused on that niche of midlife women. And really community is kind of the thing that we're all about these days.
You now have this publication called like Midstory magazine, and it focuses on experiences of women in the messy middle of life. I'd like to know what inspired you both. You already shared some parts of the why, but what inspired you both to create this very special space dedicated to sharing the stories of midlife women on Substack. Why do you think this is so important?
I'm trying to remember the very first conversation we had about this. And I think it stemmed from this need of the publishing landscape has changed so much in the last decade or more. And it's really difficult to write a meaningful personal essay and find a home for it. It's difficult to get personal essays published. And we've watched the women in our community kind of struggle with that. They want to write their stories, they want to tell their stories, but where do we put them? And the idea to create Midstory was basically we wanted a publication where women at midlife could get paid to publish their personal essays, not how-to essays, not reported or research-based, but their stories about their relationships and their lives.
We were already sort of doing this on our own website and in our anthologies and in our writing groups and writing classes. But Stephanie was the early adopter to Substack. She already had a great Substack going on for a year by the time we started Midstory.
It didn't take long for me to sell you on it. I was like, this is amazing. It's like a blog and a newsletter. It's so easy. You don't have all this back-end, high-tech WordPress garbage. I was like, we have to do it. Substack is the answer. And now Jessica is the expert on it. It was like, I had my little blog that I'd moved over there, and she now knows all the ins and outs. But Substack really has been kind of the perfect fit for a publication for midlife women, I think.
Yeah, for our mission of trying to get women to not only share their stories, but also connect with other women through their stories. It's not just publishing the stories. It's also being able to, communicate with each other and really like listen and talk and interact with each other. So Substack is just built for that.
It really is. Yeah. To have a conversation rather than just, a landing place for stories. We want to give women content that relates to them and speaks to them. And a lot of the times the writers of these pieces are seeing the things that other women resonate with, but maybe haven't put into words. And so this gives them this landscape to interact and connect and share. And it's just so vibrant.
And this is exactly where I met Jessica. So on the Online Writing Club, I now also have these guest essays, and Tracy wrote a piece about is 50 too old to start a writing career? And of course, the answer was, it's not too late. And now I know that in the Midstack directory, you already shared a bit about this, and you now have more than 200 midlife women in it. Could you share a bit more about this Midstack directory? Because as you shared, you also now have the second publication you added here. So what is this directory all about?
I had seen other directories of Substacks before, and it was also I wanted to not just share original essays, but I also kind of wanted to curate other writing that was out there on Substack and also give more voice to that. And I was really struggling to find lots and lots of specifically midlife writers on Substack. And I knew they were out there, but they were just kind of hard to find. So I just was like, hey, why don't I try to do this? Why don't I create a library of Substacks written by women? And I just put the call out there, and it sort of picked up steam, and lots of people shared it. And yeah, we received lots and lots of submissions from Substacks I had never heard before. So yeah, that's been really great. Part of the mission of Midstack is also to help women feel comfortable with Substack. It's for women who write Substacks. So, it's helping women get comfortable. A lot of them were like me a year and a half ago, heard Substack out there, keep hearing that name, think it's probably a cool thing, but feeling a little intimidated by it. A lot of women, midlife women in particular, who might be a little bit tech adverse, get really overwhelmed and intimidated by all the things about Substack, writing all of it. But we also want to create a community that's just about gentle guidance about Substack.
Yeah, as you're talking about curating, finding them, something that you're also doing, Jessica, is so good at teaching people how to use platforms. So in addition to finding other Substacks by midlife writers, we've also been helping women who are writers in our community become Substack midlife writers, so it's sort of casting that net to find who else was out there. But we're also taking midlife women who want to write and put their words on Substack and kind of teaching them how to do that too. So I think that's been a big part of Jessica's work as she's been behind the scenes with Midstack is also helping to add to that pool of midlife writers by teaching them how to use Substack, because it is a really easy platform, but all platforms take a little bit of a learning curve. And she's great at guiding people through that.
How and when you found out about Substack, and I don't know, did you read it somewhere on a blog, or did another mom share something about Substack? Do you remember?
Yes. I think I can't remember which of my favorite writers whose blogs I'd followed a long time ago. I was on her newsletter list. Gosh, I really can't remember who it was. And all of a sudden I got this Substack newsletter and I was like, what is this? And it was so pretty. It was so streamlined. And I was like, I'd been neglecting writing on my blog. It was a pain to get on there. And then I had to schedule the newsletter to go out. And I was just so over it. And I was like, you know what? I could reinvigorate my blog and put it on Substack and take my newsletter subscribers and import them onto Substack. And I did it. And I was hooked immediately because it was so easy. And I think also when you're a writer at midlife, and maybe if you're a mother, there are enough obstacles to your writing practice. Like there are enough factors keeping you from sitting down and creating and producing content to have this. Like every week I do my Substack column for Monday morning. And the only obstacle is me carving out the time to do it. It's not all of this tech stuff. It's not all of this marketing and promotion. It was so intuitive that just following the leads of, I think after I saw 3 of my bloggers on Substack, I was like, okay, I'm doing this right now. And it took me like 5 seconds to convince Jessica, because it's such a great platform. It really does speak for itself.
Hi, it's Christina. Want to learn how to start writing, sharing, and even making money from your own stories? Then join the Online Writing Club with more than 11,000 writers to turn your words into published and paid work. I know that you're connected with Robin from Small Stacks. Am I right?
I mean, we don't really know each other, but yes, we've liked each other's stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because he also has like this directory, which I love. And for instance, I have like a recommendations directory. So all these directories are pretty cool because, as you shared, then you help people to connect and give them a platform. And you describe Midstory as being in the middle part of a story, neither the beginning nor the end. How do you see this concept reflected in the stories and essays you've published? And what unique challenges and opportunities do you think the midlife stage presents? Because, for instance, in a guest essay from John Hamilton, he shared something from a screenwriter. She died when she was 71. And she shared something like, when you turn 60, Death becomes a sniper. This makes me really, rethink this whole concept. How do you see this?
What is the middle, right?
Right. What is the middle?
Is the middle? Am I in the middle, or are you in the middle?
We've had a lot of conversations about this
because
because
most common question we
people
get.
are always, they're always belaboring that point. 35 isn't midlife, 50 isn't and we're just like, listen, enough with the semantics. Like we have women in our workshops who are in their 30s and women who are in their 80s, and it's like, I think the distinction is, we're out of adolescence. We're out of that young adulthood, that very beginning of our family's stage. And we're not dealing with the problems of like being in a nursing home yet, right? Like midlife, we give it a wide berth. And I think the thing that's more important is, I remember reading this article maybe 5 or 10 years ago about women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond being called perennials. Like we're all going to be wearing jeans, black tank tops, and black Converse until we die. And basically midlife women are tired of being invisible, right? This whole crone era, this fear of aging. So I think to us, midlife it's almost like a second adolescence. You're finding yourself, and the women are sharing stories about their health and their marriages and their divorces and empty nesting. And maybe you're a 45-year-old mom with toddlers, or maybe you're a 45-year-old mom whose kids have left the house. But you're talking about your health, your body, your hormones, your relationships, your parents aging and death. I mean, that's the stuff that I think is the messy middle. So the numbers are irrelevant. What do you think,
Yeah,
Jess?
and I feel like it's very self-definitional. Like it's almost like what people say about pornography, like it when you see it, you feel it when you just know, like
totally,
like you just know if you feel like you're in the messy middle of life. And I've seen people, I've had quite a few women actually reach out and say, I love what you're doing with Midstack, but is there something for women who are older, who identify as being at kind of the end stage of life and in the 70s, 80s and beyond? Like, because they do have another, totally different set of concerns. They're not the sandwich generation.
No, they're talking about retirement, not, do you know what I mean? Like, you're right. There's a separate niche for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is different. But I mean, like you said, I can see there are women who are like very much in their 70s or even 80s who are like, I don't want to be identified with that end stage of life, who do see themselves in the middle.
And who like being part of our writing groups where there are women in their 40s and 50s and they're talking about how, yes, I'm 75 and I have a vibrant writing practice and I'm writing novels and I'm happy and I feel like, I think you're right. It's a self-identified thing.
So for instance, I see myself also like in the messy middle somehow, although I'm in my 30s. So if I would say that I belong to this messy middle, would you also allow me to write a person?
Yes, you're welcome.
Essay?
Yeah. And didn't you also describe yourself as an old soul? I think you said that to me. Yeah,
definitely. I'm in my 30s. However, I feel as if I were 50 or 60. Yeah.
Well, so we have done all these writing workshops called Writing Our Eras that are generative writing workshops based on Taylor Swift's music. And we talked about it because we love the concept of Taylor's tour with eras, different eras of our lives. And we found that the prompts just elicit this beautiful storytelling in women. And Taylor has probably also a very old soul. She probably also feels like she is in the middle of life. She's earned some stripes, right? But people were just like, oh my God, she's 34. You can't call her midlife. And we're like, calm down. No one is saying that it's midlife. Stop with the numbers. But again, it's what you feel. So yes, you send us your essays. We don't care if you haven't hit 40 yet.
Cool. So everyone listening right now, you can also send them your essays if you're like in your 20s or 30s, but still have the feeling you're in the messy middle. So every day I feel as if I were in the messy middle here with the kids in the house, the laundry piling up and everything. You can relate. You can relate to this. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I'd like to know, from all these like impactful and memorable essays, are there some, that really resonated with you?
Oh my gosh, yes.
You can like recall, remember.
Oh, no, I have one right on the tip of my tongue. It's Allison Holden's. I read it and I think it was the fastest I've ever accepted a publication to Midstory. I'll have to make sure she hears this because I read it and normally I try to write these acceptance letters that they're a form, they're succinct, but this one I was like, "Oh my gosh, your words." Like I was like, I read your words and I felt like you were speaking right to my soul. She was writing about the complexities of marriage. I was right in the middle of a really terrible divorce and I felt so seen. I could not shake her words from my heart. And I think those are the kinds of essays where we have people in the comments who are just saying, me too, me too. I didn't know anyone else thought these thoughts. I mean, the way she described, like I have chills just talking about it, her sitting on the couch with her husband, watching TV. And I was just like, I don't know. Those are the kinds of essays, they stick with me. And I think those are the kinds of essays that we all long to read, the ones where we see pieces of ourselves in them. So thanks, Allison.
And Jessica, for you, can you remember one story?
There was one recently that, and I'm blanking on the author's name, but called Real Cats that we published.
Yes, I was like, what about the cat one?
It was just, there's so much in the culture now about, childless cat ladies and like, should we write about this? We aren't childless cat ladies. Like, how would we write about this? And I read this essay and I was like, oh my gosh, it was such a beautiful essay. And then she sent a picture with it, several pictures actually with it that were just so perfect. And I'm like, it speaks to this moment of what many of us are feeling, even if we aren't childless cat ladies, but in such a beautiful, like specific way.
One was Real Cats, Angela Townsend.
Real Cats, yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I remember this. I saw this on Substack Notes. I remember this one. I love it.
It's such a gift to read all of these stories from women at midlife. It's my favorite part of my work is curating stories of other women and helping to amplify their voices because we have so much to say at this stage of life. And I think that we're at this this place of integration where we're at a vantage point where we can look back and we can contextualize things and make sense of things. And there's this ability to sort of distill meaning and understand, and this sort of quest to want to understand. And so I think the stories that come out of women in this stage of life are just so profound.
Yeah. And I feel like that, especially on Substack, I think like when I'm going through all the submissions to Midstack and like I find these publications that I know that are just sort of like little hidden gems. And every time I update Midstack, I'm like, come on, let's somebody find these people, these women, they're
Right.
so great. And like, I'm just like rooting for them behind the scenes when I hit publish.
And at the moment, what feeling do you have? Where do the people that submit a piece to your publication are coming from? Are they coming via Substack Notes? Are they coming from like, I don't know, outside from Substack? Is this from your network or from recommendations? What do you think?
For Midstack or Midstory?
For Midstory.
Midstory.
Or for both publications.
Yeah, for both. I mean, I think well, you can speak to Midstack, but I think the people who submit essays to Midstory have some of them have maybe been in our network for 5 or 10 years at this point. We have a lot of people who've done writing classes or been in our anthologies who have just sort of stayed in our orbit. And so I think a lot of that might come from our network, but I feel like a lot of our readers are coming from Substack now organically. Like, I think that's one of my favorite things about Substack is just either through the recommendations or it's just so generative and community building. So I think more and more of our people are finding us through Substack. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm finding that the communities are even ending up being a little separate. Midstack is for women who are just writing on Substack, and Midstory, you might be a writer, you might not. You might just want to read women's writing.
There's some overlap, but there's a Venn diagram kind of a thing where there are some who are in both communities, but Midstack definitely women who are writing on Substack at this messy middle, whatever numbers you feel apply.
So as I shared, I found you via Substack Notes. That's why I'm asking. And I think that you are capitalizing on Substack Notes in a very, good and healthy way. Because also I know that you found me via Substack Notes with Tracy's story. So I think, this is like the place at the moment on Substack where we can really connect. So where you can connect with other writers and then with the audience of these writers again, because, this podcast now is also, our audience is connecting here and then listening to the podcast. And I think that's wonderful about Substack. And that's, what makes Substack so special and lovely place at the moment.
There's like alchemy there. It feels like an alchemy of different communities joining to make something new.
Yeah, and it's just what I like about it is like
networking,
Substack, networking, but also in what I like about, Notes especially, is that you can just there's no tricks there are tricks and hacks, I guess, but like you just can be authentic. Just say what you feel and just write it out. You don't have to worry about like perfect pictures or, getting just the right image. It's just say how you feel about something and put it out there and people connect with it. It's just so different than other social media platforms.
And I love that for your publications also using it as a marketing tool so that you can like amplify the messages of your writers, which I love. And if you're thinking about all these like powerful personal essays and someone is listening to this right now, what qualities do you think make for a powerful personal essay, especially when tackling themes like love, loss, friendship at midlife, parenting, retirement, whatever stage or season in your life you're right in? What do you think?
Oh my goodness. Like personal essay, we could talk about it all day. And I'm currently doing like a couple of different personal essay workshops. So I feel like I'm living and breathing it. We always talk about, well, first of all, there needs to be a theme that really is universal and relatable. And that's why I think these midlife stories are, because almost everyone can find themselves in a story about relationships or grief or connection. But we always talk about the importance of a small moment where something changed, that it's not just someone telling a story, but that it's about something small that kind of represents something larger. And so the kinds of essays that really hook us aren't this giant story of, the story of my divorce, or it's zooming in to like the real details of someone's lives and then being able to connect to it on an intimate personal level. What do you want to add to that?
No, yeah. Like making the specific details, specific moments, specific memories into more universal themes and universal stories that other people can connect to.
And showing us too, not just sort of talking about a subject, but show us what it was like, the moment you walked through that door and something really important changed for you. Really, I think for me, it's the ability to be vulnerable. It's the ability to really connect with the reader so that a reader identifies with you and they have compassion for you and they're invested in you. And I think that just happens naturally when a writer is being really vulnerable and genuine. Like you can tell, you can feel it. It's like when you connect with someone and whether or not the smile reaches their eyes, right? Whether or not you can feel like they're accessible to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm talking to you, I also have the feeling that I'm like, I can so relate to everything you're sharing. I love it, and I'm smiling all the time because I think, cool, some I found some other mummies and, some other tribe members, because often people who join Substack think, or they want to find their tribe, and they often have the feeling, they can't find their tribe. There are no people like them on the platform. And I always say they should like take inspiration and then say, I'm not only like waiting for others to, reach out to me. So I should also reach out to others. And I think the first step to reach out to you would to, say hi and to submit a piece to you. However, and of course, to start writing a personal story. I still know that there are many who think, my voice doesn't matter in today's crowded digital Substack world. Although I don't have the feeling that Substack is crowded. Of course, there are more and more, especially like influencers coming on the platform. However, it's all about your tribe, your people. It's not about like having hundreds of thousands of subscribers. It's more about like finding your tribe. And this tribe can be very tiny, teeny, small, and still engaged, and you're like feeling connected. And with Substack and your email list, this is so intimate, still so intimate.
Yes, it's
that you're
intimate.
going into these inboxes and then talking to the people. I love this. So what would be like your advice for people listening right now and saying, yes, I love this. So I feel it. I have to share my personal story, but I don't, I feel like my voice doesn't matter.
We don't know any writers that don't have imposter syndrome. I haven't met any yet. I think all writers struggle with why me? Why would anyone listen to what I have to say? And it's the pep talk I give writers every single day of my life that I also fail to give myself sometimes, because I think we all have that. I think it's universal. Why me? Everyone else is talking about this. Why would my story matter? Why would my voice matter? And I think especially as we're working with midlife women, like we really want to emphasize how important your voice is, how important your story is, how meaningful it is, and that there is space for everyone. And that one of my best writing friends, Pam Moore, always gives me the advice that I think it was her grandpa said, like, there's no original idea under the sun, right? Like, people, well, why would I write about grief? Or why would I write about this? Or, yeah, you're right. Everyone's writing about it and talking about it, but there's only one you, and your story is yours. And you just don't know that you might find the right way to say something that connects with one other person, that only you could say it that way. I don't know. Do you want to add to that?
Sure. I mean, I think
it does feel saturated out there. It does feel overwhelming.
It does. And I think a lot of writers, what I am seeing, like working with writers who want to get on Substack and are trying to learn how to use Substack, is that a lot of writers are just like inherently also introverts. Like it doesn't feel natural to put themselves out there and to take risks. Like it's, they just want to write on their computers and just publish and that's it. But like, Substack is also a very friendly place. Like there's a lot of ways, just find the way that works for you. For some people, it might be, subscribing to a bunch of Substacks and becoming part of their community and then interacting in comments. For other people, like notes might feel more natural, like find the way that you can feel authentic. on Substack, and don't like try to put the imposter syndrome down, at least for like one of those aspects of Substack.
And I think that's one of the things we want to do with Midstack is like, oh, you're brand new here. Great. You're in great company. Like we really want to help writers at that early stage, even if they feel like they're just a barely emerging writer. Like you're welcome at this table. There's space at this table for you here. And I think that's part of our mission is giving women a space where their stories do matter and where they can connect with other people who are in the same place they are.
Yeah, and we have a lot of writers in our Midstack directory or who are participating in Midstack. You know, they have like 10 or 12 subscribers and they're just brand new and they're getting on our threads now and recommending each other. And it's like they're having 5 people subscribe to them in one day. And it's like the greatest thing ever, you know? Just those little pieces of success in the very beginning can make a big difference. And you just have to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. And it's always about finding your people, right?
Yeah.
But I found that midlife women are very welcoming people because I think we know that we're stronger together when we find each other.
Hi, it's Christina. Meet me inside the online writing club where you get to meet Jessica and Steph too, be part of a community that turns personal stories into published and paid work. And could you share a bit more for those who are listening right now and would want to participate in this directory? How can I participate and get on the list in this directory?
There's a submissions form on the page that you just click and I ask a bunch of questions about your Substack for it to be included, and feels like a Substack that only could have been written by a midlife woman. Like there has to be
if it's like a 25-year-old skateboarding publication, that you're probably not going to get accepted.
Okay.
There are some that, like financial Substacks that, they were written by a midlife woman, but it's not really reflected in any of the themes or any of the posts. So it has to have some sort of midlife lens at some point in some of the posts but for the most part, we're not very stringent in our requirements.
And what do you think, or what is your vision with this directory? Do you think you can have, I don't know, like from these 200, then in 2025, 2,000, midlife writers in this directory? What do you think about this?
I would love to. I know Smallstack, Robin at Smallstack, they have thousands now. I mean, a lot of that would just be a logistical.
It does sound a little overwhelming.
More of a tech issue, because I know he moved the directory over to Notion, which at a certain point, it's all one post. And if you had 2,000, like a list of 2,000, that would just be unmanageable and unusable. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, yes, there'll be certain questions moving forward with growth.
But I love the idea of having more and more women joining the community so that they can, even maybe women who aren't on Substack yet, we call it Substack curious, right? That we can here's how it's done. Here's what it looks like. Come and join us. This is a wonderful place for you to put your words and your ideas, grow with us, learn with us. Let's write together. I think the idea of bringing more people into the community just sounds really wonderful.
Helping others get on the platform then.
Yes, absolutely.
We've done, I guess, a bunch of Substack workshops at this point, or individual workshops. And it does make a difference, I think, to women our age who might be a little bit tech averse, women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, to be able to feel comfortable asking what they consider really dumb questions.
I love answering those because I'm not a tech savvy person. And so I love being able to say, oh, no, don't worry. It really is that easy. If I can do it, you can. And we just had one earlier this week. We're like a Midstack Zoom kind of a workshop. We're going to keep offering those so that we can help the community grow and that we can give midlife women a safe place to get some assistance with getting set up and find people who are writing about topics. So we'll be doing those regularly on Midstack. I think that's one of the aspects of our community that will hopefully feel the most welcoming.
Now we learned about the directory, and I now would also love to know a bit more about the Midstory magazine and how to submit an original piece to it. I already know that you prefer word count 750 to 2,000 words. And I also know that you pay $75 for accepted essays. So could you share a bit more about how to submit an original writing to your Midstory magazine?
Well, technically, we're not open for submissions right now, but we will be in the next very soon. We're still getting some. But
we had a really busy summer, and so at the end of summer we've kind of ceased to accept them, but we'll be opening them back up again shortly. And so there will be a link on Midstory magazine on our Substack that says
it is still now.
Yeah.
It's still there now.
So
but
yeah. So click here. There's a link. Click here to submit your work, and it'll walk you through the submission guidelines. And it's pretty easy to submit an essay.
So right now, if people listening to this, they can click on it and then submit their pieces. Cool.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
How long does it take for a response?
Yeah, we make sure that at least every quarter. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 months to get through an entire wave of submissions. So it may be up to a couple of months to get a response. Especially when we reopen submissions after we've been closed for a while, there's a pretty big influx, and with just the two of us reading, it can take a minute to get through them. And
we have no staff.
No, we have no staff. It's just us. And I think that to me is one of the hardest things, because I also produce live storytelling shows. And so I'm getting auditions, and you have only a limited number of spots to cast for a show. And what ends up happening with both those and with Midstory is layering of subject matter and topics and tones, right? You can't have 10 really heavy essays about grief, right? Without having something in between so a lot of our editorial decisions have to do with sort of the overall structuring and layering and balance of stories. So we frequently get so many beautifully written essays that we can't accept simply because we don't have that many spots, but also we try to really provide sort of a balance of content for readers. So it's not just one type of story. It's one of the hardest parts, I think, of our work is choosing essays, because especially as writers, we know how awful those letters feel, right? That I'm going to take a pass. Nobody wants to get those. Submissions are difficult. They're difficult to navigate as a writer, and they're difficult to navigate as an editor. And a lot of times, I think we can't help but take things personally, because these are our words. So very few things matter as much to us as our stories. And it's difficult all around.
Yeah, I remember my rejection letters, some of them almost word for word, a lot better than I remember my acceptance letters.
Well, one of the things I've prided myself on in my career is writing really beautiful and gentle rejection letters.
She really does.
I've gotten a lot of people email me and say, that is the nicest rejection letter I've ever gotten. I'm going to print it out. And I'm like, my work here is done. If I can write a beautiful, compassionate rejection letter, well, then that might be my accomplishment of the day.
And now I have a question for Jessica, because I know that, I'm not sure about Steph, but I know that Jessica, you've written for numerous well-known platforms like Huffington Post, Scary Mommy, and so on and so on. What advice would you give others who would want to, share their expertise and make their voices heard in larger media outlets?
I'm going to let Stephanie take this question right now, because I don't publish as much anymore. I tend to do most of my work for her stories. Stephanie is more of the freelance writer of the two of us.
Well, and I think that honestly, this question is really interesting to me, because one of the reasons that we had the idea for Midstory to begin with, as I said, was it's difficult to get personal essays published, right? And even in the last 5 years, it's become harder. I've had essays published with, the Washington Post, and now it's much harder to, things need to be either shorter or kind of a hybrid reported. I've had essays published. There are some publications that really are specific to personal essays, and some that are even specific to motherhood. Publications like Literary Mama and Motherwell, and Mother Magazine is one of my favorites. So I think that, again, it can be a really soul-crushing endeavor. I love writing essays and having them picked up somewhere else that's not my Substack. It feels wonderful. I love the ability to reach a wider audience, but it does take a lot of persistence and tenacity. And I think it's helpful for me as an editor, knowing that it's not a personal thing sometimes, how full an editor's inbox can get and how difficult it is to pick the exact right piece at the right time. But that said, it's disappointing every time you get a rejection. So I think what you need to do, well, first of all, I have a meticulous spreadsheet where I track my essays, where I've pitched, what dates, what responses, and then I have a list of my favorite publications and editors, right? So I've got it all in one space. So I would say be very organized. Research the publications so that you know what is their word count. Have they published something like this already in the last month or two? What types of stories? You might need to take an essay and trim 500 words off of it and maybe switch the angle up a little. You need to be ready to be flexible with your piece to pivot to match the criteria for your publication. So you have to do a little research, and you have to be willing to, if you've gotten a handful of rejections on a piece, maybe go back to it and do some revision with a little bit more of a critical eye. But I think it's a beautiful experience. It's exhilarating. It feels wonderful. We all long for those bylines. I think it's definitely worth doing, but I think it has gotten more difficult, especially if we're talking about creative nonfiction, right? To get work published in print or online magazines.
Steph, have you thought about like pitching stories that were submitted to your publication to magazines, online magazines?
Like from our Midstory?
Previously published stories on Substack pitching to media.
Right. And there are guidelines about previously published work that a lot of places will not take things that have already appeared, even if it's on your own blog or your own Substack column. So one of the things I like to tell writers who take workshops is that you might have one story that has 10 different iterations, right? And you can write about this experience on your Substack in one way, but then you can maybe take the nugget of it and spin it a little differently for this publication, right? Like you can write on one subject that you're passionate about and put it out in different places, so that maybe if you have written something on your Substack, but you want to change it up and, obviously it can't be the same thing, then yes, absolutely take that pre-written, like that sort of nugget of an idea and develop it for a different online publication. And writers want to get paid for their work also. I mean, that's another big piece of this.
Yeah, I'm just asking because you might know Anna Wharton. I interviewed her a few weeks ago, and she got published in a newspaper, so in a print magazine. And they, republished a piece that was previously published on Substack. That's why I'm asking. And now you have to know the background from Anna. She's a published author, and she also, is a freelance writer. So she knows like the stuff. She knows how to pitch the media and so on. She has all the contacts. However, I love this idea, from having like this online story and then getting published print, because, print is still like different.
I've read stories on stage that I've published on my Substack. So it's lovely to have something that you've published on your own Substack column. And then if you're doing some kind of a live show, a storytelling show, to be able to use that way. And then you have, the video, or maybe there's a streaming, or you've got an audience in front of you. It's such a fun way to create content that you can use in different ways.
Steph, I know from you, you're a stand-up comic. Mm-hmm. Would you mind sharing a bit more about this? How awesome is this? Can I,
oh my gosh,
imagine yourself being on stage, and then, I don't know, for in front of a big audience, or how do you do this?
I started comedy just a little over a year ago, and I took a class from a female comic, which I love, and it was all women in my class. And I met her because I'd cast her in one of my storytelling shows, and I was like, we need more funny stories. And I went to one of her shows, and I said, please audition for Listen to Your Mother. And she did. And then a bunch of us ended up taking her class. So we learned I'd been writing comedy for a long time, but I'd never done stand-up. And so to come from this writing background and learn how to write really great jokes that did well on stage, it's totally different from writing there, right? And then to learn how to perform them. So I spent the last year really studying with this teacher, Zoe Rogers, who especially works with women. And then I connected with a storyteller or a comedy group called Moms Unhinged. Their founder, Andrea Marie, has shows going all over the country. We're based in Colorado, but it's all mom comedians performing shows that are specifically for other moms. And I love it. I've done shows in Colorado, in Nebraska, and South Dakota. And one of my audiences, we had 520 people. So, I'm on stage getting to tell jokes to a room full of moms with other mom comedians with me. You just have no idea how amazing it is. And like women are so tired of this saturated, like dude comedy market, like guys telling all the same jokes about their wife being crazy. Like we're so sick of it. And so to be able to write jokes that are relatable to women, again, like the menopause, the motherhood, the divorce, I mean, all of these things that we're telling jokes about are things that women actually care about. They can connect with them. And so it's sort of an extension of what we do with Midstory and Midstack. It's like a lot of moms and then older moms, midlife moms, gathering together in a room to laugh about things that are meaningful to us. Like it is the thrill of my life and I love doing it.
And have you ever thought about like doing a Substack live or so and then like performing something live on
my
Substack?
Gosh. No, but now I have. Oh my goodness, Christina, stay tuned. This is a great idea. It's such a good idea. So I'm finishing up a session of a writing workshop with just it's a small group of 5 writers. And our last week, everyone is going to read their essays to each other over Zoom, like kind of like a little salon. And my favorite thing, like I said, curating women's stories, but I love the stories on stage because there's something amazing about reading your words, right? As writers, it's wonderful to write, but we also long to be read. And I think there's something really powerful about reading your words out loud. And I love the idea of utilizing some kind of a Substack live feature where people can actually read or perform or share that way. That's just such an amazing idea. Thank you for this idea. Who knows what's coming next?
Do you have a relatable joke for moms or so you can share with us, or some part of your show you can perform just to like?
Oh my goodness!
Get us a glimpse into your show.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little glimpse of the midlife ADHD mom. How is that for you? I'm just giving a shout out to any other talented and gifted girls from the 1980s and 90s in the audience, because it's pretty clear, yes, what's happened to all of us. We are perimenopausal perfectionists with anxiety and ADHD. And some of us are on our second divorce. And that I did get diagnosed with ADHD at age 45, and I'm really happy about it. The hardest part was remembering to get evaluated for like a year, because once I finally remembered to call the office, it was the phone tag that nearly killed me, because I would be like, did I actually return their call? Or did I just think about calling? And then I got distracted by Googling the correlation between divorce and perimenopause. And I was like, is that their whole screening process? They're like, this woman forgot to call us back 3 times in a row. Let's just skip the middleman and DoorDash her some Ritalin. So that's a little bit of my ADHD set.
Cool. And I have some confetti left from my live sessions.
Oh my goodness, that was the highlight of my day.
Cool. Maybe I have some confetti also for Jessica. Yeah, and I also wanted to ask you, what's like your the thing you love the most to do with your kid? Because I know you're all a single parent.
I am. I have 2 teenage daughters, 13 and 18, and we laugh together so much. We have the TV shows that we love to sit together and watch, and we mostly just quote right along with the shows, and then we laugh ourselves crazy. So we just love being together and laughing. It's my favorite. Like I love the time I have with my girls. They're so fun. They're so funny. Really, anytime we're together, we're just referencing inside jokes, remember this, remember that, just cracking each other up. It's so fun. So that's my answer.
And Jessica, now we come to you. What about you? What's your favorite thing to do with your kids? I think you have 2.
I have 2 kids. I have my oldest is 13, a 13-year-old boy. And the thing we love to do together is I've introduced him to horror movies and horror TV shows. And right now we're watching The Walking Dead, and a very edited version of The Walking Dead. My husband hates scary movies, horror. So I've ingrained this into my kid, and we love watching scary things together. When your kids get to the age where they like the movies and TV shows that you actually like, is like a whole other level of parenting.
No, you're going to love it. I always tell moms who have little kids like this, I'm like, don't be scared of the teenage years, really. And I know sometimes it's sad when they get older, depending on what stage you love, but I love having teenage girls. Like, they're people, they're funny, they're smart. You're going to love it, Christina. Just wait till they're little people that actually give you something more than just taking. You can share things. Like, my girls and I listen to Taylor Swift all the time. We make up games together.
And Jessica, we were talking about like these lonely cat ladies or childless cat ladies. I know that you're not childless. Do you still have a dog and a cat, or
2 dogs and a cat. And the cat is very demanding when she wants to be. I'm surprised, actually, she's not on my computer screen right now.
Like the most important question here is, what do you do on Halloween? Because, I invited you for my Halloween party. It's going to be like in the last week of October. And I think that also, for instance, Tom Kugler, you might know him. He's also like a bestseller, and he used to be a top writer on Medium, and, hundreds of thousands of followers everywhere, and then quit everything. And now it's just focusing on Substack. And he will also be part of this. And yeah, so my question is, what costume will you wear for Halloween? So how will we see you on this Halloween party?
Can I just be Taylor Swift?
I'll allow it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. We frequently have neighbor themed costumes, and so it's possible that this year we may be repeating being the Sanderson sisters.
Cool.
We were so convincing. My best friend lives across the street, and my daughter and I were the 3 Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus. And we took our kids to Boo at the Zoo, and everybody thought that we worked there. And so they kept coming to get their pictures taken with us, even though we were just regular people dressed up. So we do a really good Sanderson sister witch situation in my neighborhood, and I think that's probably on the menu for this Halloween.
I love it. So, Steph, would I also see you then on this Halloween party? So maybe Jessica already shared a bit more about it. So the idea of this Halloween party would be like max 2 hours. So for you, it would be just like 15 minutes. You can do it together with Jessica and share a bit more about your publications. Okay, so let's say for 10 minutes and then answering questions for 5 minutes, something like this, just short and sweet. And we are all wearing our costumes.
I love it.
Again, yeah, cool. So this would be like this digital Substack Halloween party, because I also love Halloween. So how can all the listeners now connect with you both? Is it via Substack or is it via your website? What's your the best place to connect with you?
Probably the easiest is through Substack.
Through Substack, yeah. We're on Substack as Midstory Magazine and Midstack. And I have my personal Substack, which is called The Reclamation Era. Again, that's my intersection of divorce, midlife, and neurodivergence. And you can find us on Instagram. I'm Steph Sprenger on Instagram. What are you? What are we on Instagram? Are we the Her Stories Project on Instagram?
Project, yep.
So yeah, find us, and we've got all of our classes and workshops and publications where you can join us. And we love watching our community grow.
And so I can't thank you enough for this wonderful interview. It was really delightful. Thank you so much, Jessica and Steph.
Oh, thank you for inviting us.
Yes, thank you. This was so fun.
The messy middle of life should never feel lonely. Join the Online Writing Club to connect with the supportive community and join our workshops.